Teacher, teach thyself.
Ladies, gentlemen, geeks of all ages, you are now entering BJ Shea's Geek Nation. Welcome.
Hey guys, Chris Walker here, Walk Like a Fan on BJ Shea's Geek Nation, Uncle Chris on BJ and Migs. Had a comment on one of my YouTube videos a little while ago asking me when I was going to do a video about how I teach games to other people. It's been mentioned a couple of times on the podcast that perhaps I'm the guy to go to when it comes to new games and learning the rules and being able to teach them well to other people. Thank you, Justin Dickerson, for that excellent question. And that video you requested, Justin, is right now. Now, I'm sure you realize we play a ton of games. We talk about it all the time on the podcast with the Board Game Alliance, where we talk about playing games. We play a lot of games. I own a lot of games. And as it turns out, I wind up having to teach a lot of games. Anytime I get a new game, I get excited and I want other people to play that game with me. But I also know that if I'm going to put a game on the table that no one else has played before, I need to know how to play. I need to know how to be able to teach that then to other people. So what do? Well, the basic process is exactly the same no matter what kind of game we're talking about, whether it's a game like Exploding Kittens or Gloomhaven or Thornwatch or Fallout, anything like that. I approach it with the same steps, all right? Step one is I open the box. I open up the box and I take a look inside and I see what kind of components I'm dealing with. I see what kind of rule book is involved. And if it's something as simple as Exploding Kittens where it's just a box of cards with a rule book that's literally two sides of one piece of paper, I know that I'm probably not going to be in for much of a trial when it comes to teaching it to other people. That's fine. Open up something like Gloomhaven that has several books involved with it, and the rule book itself is, 30 or 40 pages thick, and there's so many components I wouldn't even be able to count them all on both fingers and toes. I know that I'm in for something a little bit more complicated, and it's definitely going to be something I need to really, really get down before I try to teach other people how to play it. So, step one, open the box. After I've had a look inside the box and I know a little bit about what I'm dealing with, I make it a point to touch all the components. I make sure that if I've got a game where there's a lot of cardboard to pop out, a lot of little pieces and things like that and fiddly bits, I get all that organized and in piles so that I know what I'm looking at, so that I physically touch all of the components so I know what they are as I'm going through and there's no surprises for me. Then I read the rule book. Seems a little bit basic, but I'm going to put it in here anyway. It's one of my main steps. I read the rule book. I read it a couple of times, sometimes 3 or 4 times if I need to, because there are those games where you really, really need to know the rules inside and out before you even try to play the thing. Any game with like a really big rule book and is going to involve a lot of complex interactions, either between players or between the pieces or between cards and dice and everything else that's going on, you want to make sure that you see how that's supposed to work first. Read the rule book. Read it a couple of times, guys, seriously. After I've had a chance to familiarize myself with the rule book and have a look at how the components fit and how certain things interact with one another, if I'm still at a bit of a loss, what I'll do is I'll go online, usually YouTube, and check and see if there are any watch it played videos out there. Or even some of the review sites have a lot of really good information about how to actually play the game. I'll watch a few videos, give myself an idea. Don't know what happened there? Hopefully this isn't too jarring for everybody. What was I saying? Oh yes, there are some people out there on the internet who are playing these games and are having a great time and are really, really good at showing you how everything works and how the mechanics play. Just go on YouTube and search for name of game, watch it played, or play through, or something along those lines. You'll find all kinds of great stuff out there, people who are doing this. In fact, some of the stuff that I've done. And the last thing I usually try to do before I actually go and play a game with other people, I will set up a game and I will play it against myself. A few times, especially if it's a lot of complicated interaction stuff. Thornwatch was a great example. Gloomhaven, I wish I could say I played that against myself a couple of times. I didn't, once, because there's a lot going on and I was eager to get it on the table. Even if it's something that I have played hundreds and hundreds of times, something like Lords of Waterdeep here, where I know this game inside and out. If I'm going to be introducing it to new players, I will still set up a game, play it against myself once through, just so I can remind myself of how it all works. Now, if it's a new game, however, if it's something that I haven't played yet, what I will do when I'm playing against myself is I will try to get as many interactions going as possible between as many characters in the game as I think I can handle personally, and try to break the game. I want to do everything I can that I think the people I'm playing with are going to run into, so that I know how the rules work in those special situations. Thornwatch is a perfect example. Rev and I got to play that one recently. We were interviewing the guys who made the game, and we wanted to make sure that we had at least a couple of playthroughs under our belt before we went and talked to them about it, because we had heard it was such a fantastic game, and in fact, it is a fantastic game. But before I even played it with Rev, I made sure, and I played it through 3 times all by myself with 2 or 3 characters each. It's a one versus many game, which introduces its own whole set of complications when it comes to player interaction. I got those playthroughs against myself out of the way so that when the time came for Rev and I to play, it was smooth. I had already made all of the mistakes, and it was now time to play the game fresh and new. That's something I find that the players really, really appreciate. If you're bringing a new game to the table and you haven't at least played it once yourself, then that confidence level that what you're teaching them is the correct thing goes way, way down. If, however, you can say, oh, well, that happened when I played before, or oh, this over here is really interesting, or watch what happens when I do this, guys, they're going to be impressed. They're going to enjoy the game more because they are hands off. The last thing you want to be doing is having one of your players say, give me the rule book. I hate that. You don't need to check the rule book if I'm teaching you how to play the game. That is the ideal. That is what you're really going for if you're going to teach someone else a new game. They shouldn't have to touch the rule book, and ideally, you shouldn't have to touch the rule book because you've already played it. You know it inside and out, back to front. One of the other tricks I like to use when I'm teaching a new game to people is after I've done all of that other stuff, I've read the rule book a bunch of times, I've played it through against myself, I've handled all of the components, I know how the game works. When I'm teaching someone, I don't just sit there and recite the rule book to them. There are a lot of cases where I could literally just sit there and read the rule book, and that will give them exactly what they need to know how to play, and then we can just go from there. I condense it. I boil it all down. I say, this is the game, and let's play. Let's go through a round or 2, and you'll see how it works. Once we get rolling, I'm going to be pretty much hands off. People don't want you to just sit there and read the rule book to them. People want you to be able to explain it in a way that is accessible to them. One thing that definitely helps with that is knowing your players very well. I've got a group of guys that I play with all the time. We've got a really solid shorthand for a lot of the things. For example, if I'm talking about a game that is a lot of worker placement or something like this, I can say, oh, well, it works like Waterdeep in this respect, that respect, that respect. If you can relate it back to another game that they've already played, that's great. You don't always have the advantage of that. Sometimes you're teaching new players, and sometimes you're teaching an entirely new concept of a game to someone. So boil it down to its simplest form, as simple as you possibly can get it, so that the game itself starts to teach them how to play, and you just sit back and enjoy. One other quick note, and this is for anybody who's teaching an especially complicated game or an especially competitive game. When you're teaching new people how to play, don't always play to win. What you're trying to do, in theory, is you're trying to get them hooked on this game. If you've got a game that you love and you want to teach other people how to play it, sit them down with it, talk to them about the rules, explain to them how the game works, what all of the components do, and all of that other jazz, but then don't play to win. Now, I'm not saying throw the game. I'm saying when you're sitting there and you're in a very competitive game and you see a player starting to make a mistake that will cost them the win, or at the very least set them way, way back, talk to them about it. Say, all right, well, I see what you want to do there, but I tell you what, here's what's going to happen if you do. And then walk them back through it and have them make a different decision, and I guarantee you they will want to play the game with you again. If you don't, if you just go into the games like, I know this game, I'm going to go ahead and just trounce everybody in it, no one is going to want to play with you again. If you learn nothing else from this video today, do not teach a bunch of new people how to play a new game and then just beat the pants off of them. They'll never play with you again, I promise you that. Well, guys, I hope this has been helpful. If you have any questions about how to teach a specific game or a specific game type, or if you just want to know anything more about my process, feel free to leave a comment down below. In the meantime, share, like, subscribe, the 3 things I'm always going to ask you to do. And until next time, stay nerdy. Now, we play a lot of games, and that's obvious. Obviously, we've got a whole separate, because a lot of times. So guys, I hope that's been helpful.